Hi, I'm Tim Morris, and I'm here with my colleague Jarvis DeBerry. We're columnists at the Times-Picayune, and we're starting something called Common Ground, in which we're going to try to take a subject that's important, an issue that's important, and see if we can have a civil conversation about it and hopefully enlighten each other as well as the folks watching. So the topic that we've chosen for today is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or also called DACA. And it's a program that President Obama put into place. And essentially what it is, that if a child arrived with his or her parents before they reached the age of 16 and the parents entered the country illegally, that we are deferring deporting them as long as they do certain things and keep up with this. So things are happening by the minute right now, but at the moment it's being debated that Congress will do something to make this permanent. And I guess I'm going to start this off by saying that I think one of the things that we might disagree with on this is that I feel like that a lot of ways the media has treated Donald Trump unfairly in this, because it seems like to me he's doing the right things for the right reasons and that the outcome is going to be right. And I wonder what your response would that be.
I'm more skeptical of that position than you are, obviously, because the administration's messaging has been so mixed. I mean, on one hand, you have the president saying that he has a great heart for dreamers and that they're great people and they've done great things, and you know, it's not personal to them. And on the other hand, you have the Attorney General saying that they're taking jobs from people who might otherwise have them, or that they're driving up the crime in some kind of meaningful way. And so it's really interesting to me that he's making this argument that, you know, they're good people, and at the same time they're taking jobs and driving up crime. So, you know, if you were really sincere and really had a heart for this subset of people, because it's a very finite subset of people, then it seems to me that you would be doing nothing but talking positively of them and not speaking out of, you know, both sides of your mouth simultaneously.
Right. So one thing I think that we've learned in the 9 or 10 months of the Trump administration is that Donald Trump speaks for Donald Trump, and the administration may have other issues. Now, I agree that we come into this with the idea that first off, I think that Donald Trump is in office because of his stand on immigration, a tougher stand. And I think that there are people within his administration who want to be tougher still. In this case, I think Donald Trump has said, I believe that the DACA program should continue, but that it was put in place by an executive order, actually after President Obama had failed to move it through Congress. And so this is one of those things where I think that the end doesn't justify the means, that Trump is right to say, let's do this legally. And from the very moment that first off, a lot of people said he ended the program, he didn't. He gave it a 6-month period and told Congress to fix it. So I think that he is doing the right things to saying, let's make this a real program, and in the meantime, what Congress will do will be to add some immigration safeguards and security measures that didn't get passed the first time around when Obama decided to do this by fiat.
You know, I guess the question is, what gives him the authority to extend it by 6 months if President Obama did not have the authority to do it in the first place? So even when he is promising to fix this, he is doing the same thing, I think, that he's accusing Obama of doing. If Obama had no authority to say that we're going to defer action on childhood arrivals, and that because he did it by executive order, then what gives his successor that authority to say, okay, well, we're not going to do anything for 6 months, or if Congress doesn't do anything about it, then we'll address it later. It's like, okay, how are you going to address it later if Congress doesn't do what you want Congress to do in that situation?
Right. So I'm going to stand up for him a little bit here, in that he was facing a legal challenge. And I don't really want to get started on executive orders, which I don't like, because again, to me, this is the real problem, in that there was a debate over immigration. Obama and the Democrats could not get done what they wanted to do, and so the president decided to act unilaterally, rather than continuing through the process. Now, I know people say, look, he couldn't get anything through that Congress. Well, that's where we end up in, and we have people acting unilaterally. I think, you know, Trump could have ended the program. He didn't want to do it, so there is a little bit of this ambiguity and maybe a little bit of being hypocritical about it. But I think in both cases, I thought that President Obama was trying to do the right thing when he did what he did. I think actually Donald Trump is trying to do the right thing when he did what he did. but at some point, Congress needs to act like Congress. The White House and the administration needs to act like the administration, and the Supreme Court should, and the judicial system should do what it's supposed to do. But right now, it's just so, everybody's moving around. And I'll also throw in there the fact that Congress refused to take up President Obama's nomination for the Supreme Court. That was wrong. Yeah. And I think it was wrong for the president to act unilaterally when he set up the program. Hopefully we're going to get it fixed.
And I hope, our hopes are similar. I mean, I think that we have the same hope that it will turn out to be that there's going to be this legislative fix. I mean, last night's meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer with the president seems to be positive developments. The Democrats came out of the meeting saying that they had worked out a deal with the president, and so I'm hopeful as well. Right. I have just learned to temper my hopes with this particular president in particular. So is it some grand strategy to force Congress's hand? I want to hope that, but I'm reluctant to put my eggs in that basket.
Right. And so the thing is that this is the first time in a long time that we've heard a president from one party actually dealing with congressional members from another party. And I agree, we don't know where this is going to turn out, and there's still going to all sorts of places that it could fall apart. We saw what happened with health care. Yeah. But at the moment that we're speaking right now, the Democrats say we have agreed to a program, you know, in principle. The president has said he's also going to get exchanged for that some things that Republicans want, and that he's not going to tie the wall into this, which would obviously be the building of the wall, which would obviously be very controversial. So again, I mean, I know that you may not like this term, but I think that Donald Trump is being pretty statesmanlike in this.
I'm stunned.
I knew you'd be speechless.
Because that's not a word that I would use, but again, we'll see. I also want to say that I don't think it necessarily follows that because the legal challenge to Obama's plan to protect the parents who came in illegally, that same challenge would prevail against their children. I mean, it's one thing to say, you know, that these adults brought in children illegally and you shouldn't be able to protect them. I don't think that it necessarily follows that the federal government would have suffered the same defeat if the Attorney General had chosen to fight it this way. Right. Now, of course, I think at its core is that he's not inclined to fight it because he doesn't like the program itself.
So there's a little politics going on there. I agree. And the idea being that so those parents made a decision and crossed the border illegally.
Yes.
So the children are innocent. So clearly they are a particular group in which everybody can be very sympathetic to. And by every all the news you get from how the program has worked, these are kids who are going to school, they're being great citizens and jobs and have aspirations, and that, as Trump has said many times, no one wants to toss them out of the country.
Correct. And I would just say that, you know, that is probably the most common explanation that the parents crossed the border illegally. But I recently heard of one case where a woman was here on a tourist visa, gave birth, the baby had problems, the doctor says, oh, maybe you should stay, and so it turns out that they overstayed. So there was some legality in coming here. The illegality was staying past this prescribed time. And so I think we have this kind of one set idea in our mind of how these people came to be here. But at the same time, I think it is very important, and I know that the folks at the Jesuit Social Research Institute at Loyola have pointed this out, that a lot of American policies have really destabilized Central America and South America. And so that destabilization has pushed those people here, and that we have often been really reluctant to acknowledge our role in the destabilization of the countries that people are fleeing.
And this is the case where I think that this is I can stipulate to some facts, as the lawyers say, that first off, people tend to think that these were people who came from Mexico. A lot of them came from Central and South America, where their countries were horrible violence was going on, and so. Then there's also the argument about that these people are taking jobs away from people, which is like an oversimplistic and basically wrong. But what I do think is that people who are coming into the country illegally are depressing wages, and again, this is why the working class felt like that immigration was something to really tackle. But the way that we think about it is too simplistic, and that we need to look at this individually, which is again why I think this is the argument for President Trump saying, Congress, look at this, figure out how targeted it needs to be, what kind of safeguards you want it to be, as opposed to the administration just by fiat again saying, here's how it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly willing to stipulate that
Okay.
Congress should be doing these things. What do you do when you're in a position of power like Obama was, and Congress isn't doing anything? You know, maybe he thought that it was going to be temporary. I don't know. Maybe he thought
Right.
that, you know,
and he said it was going to be temporary.
We'll play this out until we get
Right.
a Congress who's more likely to do something to get to those ends.
Right.
So, are we at that moment now?
Right.
I don't know.
So I worry. I thought about the story in which somebody doesn't jump into the lake to save drowning people because there's a sign that says no swimming. And I want to be careful. Again, I think that the Obama administration, President Obama, was reacting to a very real need. And again, there seems to be widespread agreement that this particular group needs something.
Yeah.
And so, again, I just think that Trump should get some credit for saying, I'm going to correct this. I'm giving you 6 months, Congress, to fix it. And now that we seem like we're getting closer to an agreement.
Okay, this morning I see, though, that he says this is not going to be an amnesty bill. So
Right.
what is that?
Well, that's just a magic word that Republicans don't want to use.
And I don't know why. You know, why has that become such a dirty word? And what would it be if not amnesty?
Well, I think the idea is that by saying amnesty, you're telling people, come on in and we'll forgive you later, which, you know, I think, again, is a simplistic kind of thing. But it's just, that's a term they don't want to use, and it's politicians, that's how it works.
Gotcha. Well, this has been a great discussion.
I
hope
learned
that
some
we
things.
have many more like this, and I hope that you all tune in. This is Jarvis, DeBerry, and Tim Morris for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Thank you.